Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Um, I hope I'm clear-minded. I got a little bit of a cold. Um, Yesterday we had 360. Mr. Mufara came on, and it was awesome. What I really loved about it, he said, "Look, there's stuff going on. I'm taking care of it." And then he talked about the future, and he talked about the invested time we all have in it, and how this is for all of us. Ash has always done that. He does all the weightlifting, he does all the manual, he pays all the bills, and we get to ride on his coattails. I want to say, I've said this before. Um, he was a master marketer, and he would build systems. Then he would use that system to max out the pay plan. Well, what Mr. Mufara did for us is he built a system that he would use and scaled it to the level that all of us can be experts to. That's actually what happens. We wind up looking, and some of the results will be as if you're an expert. That's pretty cool stuff. I'm not kidding. I'm blown away over it. I know a lot of people are looking at other stuff. Okay, it breaks my heart, but listen, you want to do it, do it. I'm just saying, we're going to rock and roll. I'm telling you, the time's coming up shortly where you're going to look back and with a big smile and say, okay, there were some bad times. But I'll tell you what, if we didn't go through these times, if it's this special and we didn't go through hard times, how special could it be? Right? Good things you got to work for it. And great things, you got to suffer for it. And that's what he did. He suffered for it, and he's still going. And it only made him stronger. It makes us all stronger. I watched people's emotion over the weekend. Upset, mad, not sure, anxiety, and then all of a sudden now I'm hearing people say, he hit one of us, he hit all of us. Ash is our family and our CEO. Anyway, we got a really cool guy on here today. As soon as I saw him, I went, wow, he looks like, I'm not going to say it. And
I will.
Yeah, no. I want him to come on, and then afterwards we'll ask you, who do you think he looks like?
That's a good one.
Anyway, real cool guy, laid back, personable, talks as anybody, always in a good mood every time I hear him. So I'm going to give it to Chris, because Chris can do it better than anybody else. Go ahead, Chris.
Thanks, Marty. Good morning. Love you, brother. I hope you feel better. Saying some prayers for you. And a lot of people out there, I do want to say, shoot out some prayers for Bangladesh. They're going through some struggles right now. And we're praying for you, and happy birthday if you got a birthday. But this guy I'm bringing on next, I call him a cool cat. I talk to him frequently on Facebook. I watch what he does. Believe it or not, he's got a sense of humor just like me. And I don't really know too much of his personal life. I know some of the things he shares on Facebook, but he's really just a cool guy. And you'll see him here in a minute. And like Marty said, tell us who you think he looks like. There's a couple things that I said, and this guy just loves it. So on that note, I want to bring on a gentleman. His last name is not on there, but his real name is Stephen Holten. God, I hope I said that right. There he is right there. And I'm going to mute myself. Put him on the center screen. It's all you, brother.
Thanks, guys. Hello, family. One of my favorite things to do in the morning is get my Marty and Chris fix. I don't know how I'm going to follow Michael Williams. He was amazing. What can I tell you about myself? I went through my life last night and jotted it down on this little notebook here, this little card, just so I wouldn't forget key passages or turning points which got me here in the first place. So I will start with, I'm a redneck. I grew up in a redneck town. I have a redneck attitude. I am not politically correct, so, suck it. Anyway, I was born in 1968. I am a Gen Xer. My mom now has been gone since 1995, so I'm older than when my mom died. She was in some bad situations, which means me and my brothers were in some bad situations. So we were original latchkey kids. We took care of each other. Then my mom got sick from multiple sclerosis, so my brothers got taken to a foster home, and I went with my grandparents and got to the town I'm actually living in now, which I thought I escaped 37 years ago, but that'll come later. So I was a step kid to an alcoholic, abusive stepfather who really gave me the ability to discern whether or not people were good and whether or not I could rely on them. So I got some issues, but it's all good. We all get to a point where we have to make decisions for ourselves, and I chose to go live with my grandparents in Clear Lake, Wisconsin, small little town. About when I was here, it was 999. I think we're at 1100 now. They owned a store which was a forerunner to like 7-Elevens in the area because my grandfather drove bus for Greyhound from Minneapolis, and his family was out here, and he was working at the creamery in town, and he became turned onto an opportunity. So this runs in our family all the way back. I've looked at bootleggers, I've looked at criminals, I've looked at all these people that refuse to stay inside the system. So I'm in good company. And the opportunity was these guys had bought a bus depot and did not have a partner. So my grandfather decided, well, you know what, I'll take my retirement early and I will go work on this store. So the store became really popular place for people to hang out. And when my mom got into her issues, I decided to go live with them, and they opened their home up to me. And basically, I lived there till I was 18. So on top of the ethics and work and philosophies and ideologies of my grandfather, I probably built most of my personality and kept learning. That was one thing in my life I know, that it was always continuous learning. I was always at the library. I was always reading. I was always finding as much information on stuff as possible. And I was taught the business. I was taught inventory. I was taught how to, I was basically put in charge of candy and things to bring kids into the store to spend money. So I was marketing probably when I was 9. I was going door to door, shoveling snow, mowing lawns. So I was always given an allowance because of what I went out and made for myself. And then at some point in time, I upgraded my business with riding lawnmowers. And I was like you said, 9, 10 years old, and I was making a couple $100 just hustling, along with one of my friends who's another partner who refused to get into ONPASSIVE, which he will regret. I know he will. He will come out of the woodwork and say, should have been a founder, told you. But anyway, so yeah, I was a kid. I was bullied. I hated sports. I read comic books, science fiction nerd. Eventually, I graduated high school, went to University of Wisconsin Stout, majored in fraternities, parties, girls, and Originally, it was a psychology degree, which I got about 2 years in on. Then I changed it to hotel restaurant management because we used to get to go to the bars for research. And then I made a decision that was my first bad decision, which was I got a ticket for underage drinking back when the drinking age was 21 at 19, and I got stuck in my college town with no job prospects. So what did my grandfather suggest? The military. So I went into basic training December 31st, 1987. I made some bad decisions there. It took me almost 4 months to get out of it. I'm glad I went in reserves, but there was another bullying situation there. I had to work my way out of there. There was no way I was going to get out, so I worked through that. Was in the reserves. I got out of basic in April and AIT, and my MOS was Combat Engineer 12 Bravo, which means blowing stuff up. That was fun, and building bridges. And then I got back to my apartment and had 2 weeks before I had to be in Indiana to do my annual training. So my girlfriend and I hopped a Greyhound and went to LA. We stopped in Las Vegas to see a friend. We went to LA. I trusted somebody to take our bags and said he'd meet us on Venice Beach. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'll meet you in Venice Beach. And when we got there, we had fun in Vegas, and then went to Los Angeles. And oh man, back in 1988, Los Angeles had about a block, maybe 2 blocks of homeless. Now, 30 years later, it's like Soylent Green out there. Those are the people that make me proud to be an Unpassivian, because I know that not all those people are there by choice. So let's move forward. Lost the bags, that's okay. Left my girlfriend in Vegas, went to Indiana, got to do helicopter rides and stuff like that, was fun. Then got out and decided that college wasn't for me, so I went into the private sector and worked every type of job imaginable, from data entry to washing cars to digging ditches. I've worked retail, I've worked fast food, I've worked everywhere. Never really had a career other than music has always been my sideline. That's my therapy. Working with bands, concert security. So, okay, private sector. We had a huge snowstorm in '88, and I was coming home from one of my jobs, and I saw a commercial on MTV for this school called the Colorado Institute of Art, and it was in Denver, and it was all about music video business production. So what do? I get my little hands on a phone, I call, I get set up, I get all my financial aid set up. We pack everything up in a little trailer and car, and my grandparents take us out. We rent this really cool place like a block away from the school, and I start going to school in Colorado. It was a 1.5-year program. We did audio production, video production. We did music business management, copyright law. I hooked up with the band, started managing them. Went through several name changes, several lineups, several egos. Right now, we have an established kind of rapport, the guitarist and I, who actually ended up marrying our old lead singer from the very first band, which is called Taliesin. And then our other singer is a conservative DJ in Kokomo, Indiana. And just recently, they finished an album that was 30 years in the making with new vocals because we couldn't get our vocalist to come back. And then just recently, our bass player, our second bass player, died of complications of RSV and COPD. And the original bass player is now a armorer making swords and chainmail and stuff in, I believe he's still in Indiana, which is the hometown of Axl Rose, Guns N' Roses. So there's always a connection there with, he used to know Axl's grandma, so he played tapes and stuff from early days. Forward, Denver concert security, came back home to the girlfriend after we had moved back out of Denver. Got called in for Guns N' Roses Skid Row show. They needed extra security, so I flew back, lived with one of my friends who was also in security, got through that, went back to Wisconsin. What did we do after that? Anyway, we got through all of that, came back. I worked at the casino, back into like temp jobs and factory jobs. And when I got back from Colorado, I didn't have the same girl. I had a different girl who I brought with me back to my hometown again. And that lasted about as long as her loyalty. So she had a substance abuse problem, and I eventually put her on a bus back to Colorado. And then I run into my high school girlfriend, and sparks flew. She already had 3 kids, so we got married on Halloween of 96, I believe. My mom died in 95. She was in a nursing home for her MS. We got married in a laundromat where I was running with her boyfriend, both now deceased. That marriage lasted about 10 years. Right after I got married, no, right before I got married, I had been with someone, and we never got back together. Tried, but the result of that was my daughter, Tommy Leah, who was born in 96. So I was stepdad to 3 kids, plus I had one of my own. So it was always a struggle keeping everything together. And basically, I'd been doing marketing and being an entrepreneur on the side since my grandfather. We'd stuff envelopes. We would go out and we got involved with Nutrition for Life and shark cartilage, and we were working. When I was in Colorado, I was working Herbalife and going to conventions and listening to people like Jim Rohn. So my work life never interfered with my side hustle. It was weird because I always was in a position where if I had to go to a convention, yeah, the job could wait. I'd take either the time off or I'd just quit it and get another job. So there's no timeline for career because I still didn't know what I wanted to do because I was managing a band, but I was also working at a computer warehouse. It was a balance of, I'm going to have fun, I'm going to enjoy what I do, but yet I have to fund it. So, okay, so let's see, let's go forward. Divorce. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Um, at some point in time, I came back to Wisconsin with there was a divorce that happened in 2006 for irreconcilable differences. I got hooked up with the church. I love church. So this friend I was working with at a woodworking place, we're doing kiosks for Verizon back when cell phones were like really coming into their own, where you would go to a mall and there would be these phones all lined up on this table. Well, it was a kiosk. We made those. We made them for all over the world. We worked on Rainforest Cafe, Target, all kinds of different things. And that led to meeting Randy Stone, who had his own church, and it started out in a home. It was a born again, evangelical, Bible based church. And it started in somebody's home. Then it moved downtown to a smaller town um, than mine, which I ended up living there for a number of years. He went from a bowling alley over to this old church. Well, now this church was quite new. It was called the New Wine Community Church because once you put new wine in an old wineskin, the old wineskin can't contain the new wine. So it was all about transformation. It was all about taking in people that were not given a good hand. There was a Huber system. We started a kind of a halfway house, and I was part of the worship team. I was part of a worship team in a church back when I was married too, but at the same time, the church was not happy because I was also singing in the bars, doing karaoke, fronting a band, whatever. So it became a balance of, well, your voice is really good, but your lifestyle doesn't reflect what we want. And at one point in time, it was '99, I quit smoking, I quit drinking, which that's like a staple of being in a bar is you have a cigarette in your hand and a drink in the other. And then the laws came in where you had to smoke outside and da 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 da. So I quit all that stuff pretty much cold turkey. When I was working in a factory, I used gummy bears to quit smoking, and then food replaced the motion of hand to mouth. So I gained a bit of weight. Um, then going forward, got the divorce, joined the church, worked with the church, worked on the church worship team, and I also came up with the idea of recording the sermons and piping them into like jails. And Randy was such a dynamic Jerry Savelle, Jesse Duplantis, um, Joyce Meyer type person when it came to bringing the message out. And they were extremely prosperity driven messages, and I ended up meeting most of the higher players in different arenas with the religion, born again evangelical leaders in that field that had TV shows, and Randy had gone under the tutelage of Jerry Savelle, and they wrote books and they put out tapes. And at one point in time, we were recording the sermons after a miracle had happened where this lady I was talking to Randy at the beginning of church, and we had steps, and this woman came in, and she was had a cane, and she was walking and was having a hard time of it. And I said, well, you know what? Maybe we should make this thing wheelchair accessible, Randy. He goes, no, I think what's God's going to do is we're just going to cure people. And we kind of laughed. And then he got up to preach, and he used to download direct from the source. You could just tell when he was on fire with the message that was intense and ready for everybody. That day we were talking about the Peter and John on their way to church, seeing the beggar who was laying on the ground, and saying and them saying he wanted money. They didn't have any money, but they said, in the name of God, get up and walk. Well, Randy got this brilliant idea to act it out with me and a biker guy named Animal, and we played the parts of Peter and John, and we came across the victim, which Randy just told that lady that we just saw that was having a hard time using cane, and she was, almost so crippled she couldn't walk, but she had to go to church. He made her lay down, and John, or Animal and I picked her up, and everybody was saying the screen words of in the name of God, get up and walk. And we walked her down the aisle slowly, and then we walked her back, and I felt electricity shoot through me like you wouldn't believe. And she goes, I think I could do it on my own. Let me do it on my own. And she literally walked. And a week later, she was riding a motorcycle. Crazier things I've seen, and that one really I had to wrap my head around, because Kelly was a very strong woman, and to this day she's still walking. So fast forward, I get into Market America, brilliant company, brilliant visionary. I compare him and a number of other people to Ash. I think Ash is one of the reasons I gravitated towards Ash, was because of all of the other people over the years I'd gotten to see, like Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar, and I read everything from Og Mandino to Napoleon Hill to everything to get my mindset right. I never seemed to get perfectly with it, but my life got better. My life got better when I started reading and listening to people like, I have to give a shout out to Kevin Trudeau. I know everybody thinks he's a scam artist, but when I found the Global Information Network, or it found me, the text of "Your wish is your command" was so powerful and so mind changing and so resonating with me that it changed almost everything, the way I did things, the way I reacted to things, my attitudes, my philosophies. And of course, that just drags you farther down the rabbit hole. And I got into a position where I met my second wife, who was actually the daughter of my partner in Market America. And we lasted about just under 10 years. But what had happened was her dad was ailing. Her mom had just died. We'd gone through all that. Oh, I forgot about the time when my grandparents died. It was like we were hit with 7 deaths at once. So when I think it was 2001 or 2002, there was like 7 or 8 deaths like in the span of like 6 months that we were just going to funerals, and that changed everything too. And then we ended up helping out her daughter, and they needed someone to we were putting her dad in a nursing home, and we needed to vacate because he had sold the house off in some reverse mortgage thing. So we had I had been working for a company that at some point in time I had gotten exposed to some kind of chemical, so I ended up fighting for disability because I was having issues where I would accidentally cut myself and the blood wouldn't stop pouring out, and we never knew what it was until we took a trip to Florida for to Tampa to a Talk Fusion convention. See, another wonderful opportunity. And we found out that I actually had a condition called lymphedema that we're not sure if it was because of chemicals or something that got into my system. But anyway, when I got back to Wisconsin from Florida, we started the journey to find out what was wrong, and then it became my wife at the time was cleaning houses, and I still had child support and stuff to pay for. So I basically ended up not working while I was fighting for fighting for disability, and she did most of the work, and we doubled down on payments. And when my kid was like 17 and a half, they said all my child support was paid off, and then my disability finally kicked in, and we ended up visiting North Carolina, and I fell in love with a place called Mount Airy, which is the prototype for Mayberry in the Andy Griffith Show, and I decided that within a year we would be moving to North Carolina, and I wanted to live in Mount Airy because I wanted to buy a drive-in and all these opportunities. You know, they were trying to get me to dream bigger and create wealth. And we know that most of them are empty promises. But I did have a partner in a business that we still do today, which is an electronics recycling business. And we are in process of finishing off that case, and then we will be able to contribute a lot more to causes like, you know, the one thing that impressed me about Chris is being the face of Oh Bless and the angels in the beginning, and everybody gravitating towards helping each other rather than feathering their nest. You know, like Ash always says, take care of what you need to take care of first. So I consider this as a grand social experiment that not only is Ash flipping everything upside down and giving the power back to the people, he's actually allowing people to live their dreams and enjoy their life rather than slaving away for somebody and building their pyramid. So let's see. We went to North Carolina shortly after Prince died. So Over the years, I had gone to Paisley a few times and enjoyed, late night raves and stuff. And then the week Prince died, so maybe when Robin Williams died and when Prince died, there was something that snapped in me that said, all right, we're going to North Carolina. So fulfilling the prophecy that I had spoken that within a year we'd be living in North Carolina. So packed everything up, went to North Carolina, stayed there for I did anyway. I stayed there for a couple months, and the marriage wasn't working because she was putting family first. I had nothing to do. So I started looking around for more shiny objects to keep myself occupied. And I think at that point in time, I did run across ONPASSIVE the very first time, and I signed up and I forgot about it. So this comes to play later when I get an information website or something. Maybe it was the two presentations that Ash did that hooked me. But anyway, I'm not there yet. So I left North Carolina, went to live with a friend. Didn't know what was going on with the relationship. I just said put a pin in it, and basically she filed for divorce. I didn't have anything to do. All I did was sign papers. That was done. But then she forgot, and for a year we thought we were not married, but she forgot to file the papers. And then, yeah, I met some people, and then I got into some other housing, and then that was kind of too stagnant because, once again, if you're not doing anything, you go and stir crazy, which is a lot like me right now, waiting, trying to talk to people. So I left there, and my stepdaughter was out in South Dakota. So she needed somebody to come take her trailer over, and she wanted to move to a different trailer. So I said, "Oh, okay, I'll go out to South Dakota." So packed everything up. Went to see. There's a pattern here, isn't there? A lot of storage units, a lot of travel, a lot of vacation permanent. So what I did was I got out there and I got into the karaoke scene heavily. I was singing about 4 to 5 nights a week, and then in that time frame, pandemic came along and knocked on my door, and it became imperative to stay out of everybody's way. I didn't believe in it. I understood that people were having issues, and I'm not going to go there because that's a totally different philosophy. But someone named Natalie from Canada contacted me with something about ONPASSIVE. And this is 2019, somewhere in there. But so I said, all right, I'll pull up my $97. This is interesting. I heard Ash's two, I don't remember if they were audios or videos, but she invited me on to a fireside chat, and I heard Ash for the first time. I heard Marty for the first time. I don't remember if Chris came along. Chris came along later, I think. But there were these things called fireside chats where we became the furniture, and Ash was so open and so transparent, and we saw through his eyes that he was our champion. He was our warrior. He was going to do it or die. And in that aspect, that's what made me do the comparison between J.R. Reininger and Kevin Trudeau and other people that I had I had the privilege of being in front of Jesse Duplantis, Jerry Savelle, all of it just came together in this package, which got me to ONPASSIVE. And then when Marty told his story, and all these other people were just laying bare the fact that, yeah, we weren't going to look at anything else. We were done. We weren't going to do anymore. We were tired of putting money into something and auto ships and everything else, that there was just this one thing that sparked that billionth of a volt that has to go off in your head, where you understand exactly where someone's coming from and you realize that this is what you were looking for. So I went to pay Natalie the $97 on her link. Unfortunately, the first person who showed it to me was not Natalie, it was the year before. So I actually became part of his team. And then I was like, oh, okay. Because I remember the original ONPASSIVE, and I remember how it was set up. But then, you get so much information about so much stuff that it gets lost in the cracks and falls along the wayside, and you never hear about progression or anything, or you get so much spam and emails that you just don't follow along with it. So when it came back and she goes, well, you're not in my team, I'm like, oh, okay, well, all right, I'll get an account with you too, because we can have more than one account, right? So I got more money together and opened an account with Natalie. So I have 2 accounts as a founder. So the first guy, I believe his name is Maurice. I've communicated with him, but only through email. So with all the migration and OConnect and all of the, I had basically 2 things to manage. And then when I got to ONPASSIVE and I realized what it was and how big it could be, then I started grabbing people. Which when I go into a business opportunity, there's a handful of people that are my front line, and those people were like, "Well, what is it?" I said, "Don't worry about it. I'm paying your way in. Just follow exactly what I tell you to do, and wait and see. Plug in, get into the community, see what's going on." But that's one of the hardest parts of anything, is trying to get people to even sit down and watch more than 5 minutes of something. So I don't know who's watching this. I know a lot of people know about it, and I don't know how they're gonna feel about it. But shout out to my friend Mark and Felicia and Tiffany and my brother Jody and Nick and Courtney and Eugene and Gino and all these other people that have made my life so full that one of my favorite movies is It's a Wonderful Life, and the philosophy behind, you don't know how many people you touch. You don't know what your presence in their life really is unless you're taken out of the picture, and then who knows what could have happened. So I've had friends commit suicide, I've had friends die, I've had relatives die. But the thing about life is, the longer you live, the more you say goodbye to people. It's just the way it is, because humans decay, humans aren't perfect. They get sick, they get damaged, they're not bulletproof, even though they think they are when they're younger. So I left South Dakota, ended up coming back and living with one of my friends, and then we got into a situation where the place we're living in was being bought up, so we got kicked out We ended up living at somebody's house for about 6 months. Then I ended up living with my brother. Then I ended up, uh, I was in an accident last year after one of my friend's gigs that there was a tractor rolling along a highway at 2 a.m. and it had no lights or reflectors or anything, and got too close with my Jeep and the airbags went off. So my Jeep was basically impounded, and I ended up uh, going back to my brother's, and everybody's waiting for ONPASSIVE. You know, September was huge, and then all of a sudden it was not there anymore. You know, and we follow religiously. We want to know the updates. We want to know how soon this, that. I mean, there are a lot of hurting people out there. And I can say that because of my disability, I don't have really a lot of expenses, but uh, eventually what happened is after the accident, I went back to my brother's. My stepdaughter, my youngest stepdaughter, calls me and asks about that stepfather from the very first part when I started, because he was a tenant of hers, and I didn't realize that she was into real estate because again she'd been into everything from being a um, home care nurse to retail, all of that. Anyway, she said, "Well, I have a place for you," and I'm like, "Really?" So I find out that she's got the job my grandfather had when I was growing up with him. After the store, he had contracted out a job as a manager for this series of apartment buildings in probably Polk County area where we collected rent, we did maintenance, we did all that. I mowed the lawns. Um, and my great grandma lived here, and she was downstairs. And when I was younger, where I had a weekend free, I'd be hanging and watching Lawrence Welk and stuff. And then there was a lady in the apartment I lived that uh,
Uh-oh, did we lose Stephen? Oh, wow. Let me tell you something. After listening to Stephen, I have a pretty boring life. I don't know if we're going to get him back on here. There's Marty. What? Listen, I told you this guy's got a sense of humor like me. He is telling us everything about everything, which is okay. But what a life this guy's led. I'm not sure if he's married or divorced or married and divorced. I wasn't sure about that, but what a cool dude. Like I said, after listening for the first 15 minutes, I thought, man, I live a pretty boring life. I love the guy. He's funny, very intelligent. He's done just about everything you can possibly do, and he just keeps going. And I wanted to hear his end thing about ONPASSIVE, but like I said, he he vanished from us. But that's okay. Stephen, his name is Stephen Holten. Uh, I like the fact that when he went to church, I love that story. Uh, every time I thought, where's he going with this? He shocked me a little bit more. I love it. This is why we love doing it for people like this guy. And remember, I said, never judge a book by its cover. Your first time you see Stephen, like, wow. But actually, he's just a big old teddy bear. And I love him for it. I wish he'd come back on here. But Marty, I know you don't feel that good. Marty, back to you, brother.
My man's got a memory. I can tell you what. He gave us his life story every freaking minute. Anyway, love everybody. What is it? Thursday? Yeah, nothing. Anything special going on? Is Red coming on?
Red is coming on in the chair at 11. Thank you for reminding me. Because Comfort Confor, if I said her name,
Oh, wow.
is coming on.
Yeah,
She'll
that's a
be in the
good one.
chair here in a couple minutes, which is in 8 minutes actually. But Stephen Holden, I'm sorry your internet died. We appreciate you. We love you. You're the reason why we do this. And like I said, you said you had to follow Michael Williams. I'm betting Michael Williams wish he didn't have to follow you because it was really good, dude. You cracked me up. I just love your just your stories. I mean, I was interested in the whole time, thinking, wow, what have I done in my life? I thought, and this guy's touched him on everything. So, Stephen Holden, you are going to relate to a lot of people. I love you, brother. Well, now he's calling me. Hold on.
We're getting off anyway.
Yeah, what happened?
Everybody,
The power. My phone lost.
He lost power. So, well, listen, real quick, are we still on, Marty? Say, Stephen, he's on the phone. Say goodbye to everybody.
Bye, guys. Big shout out to Todd, Simona, Brett, Larry, Mike, JR. New band's called Boxai, Boxai.
Rock on, dude. Hey, Steve,
right.
you're going to have to watch the end of the YouTube, man. Thank you very much for coming on.
Okay, thanks.
I love you, bro. Have a great one.
Love you too, man.
Bye.
All right, Chris, I'll see you on the other side.